welcome to Fountainhead, brought to you by WebEngage. Fountainhead is a consolidation of all of our education, ecosystem, and community efforts. As the first initiative under this umbrella, the Fountainhead Leadership Series aims to bring to you the best of industry leaders to share actionable insights, tricks of the trade, and to answer all of your nuanced questions. So ready to get inspired and entertained? Let's go.
Hello, hi, morning everyone. So today we have Rajiv, who is the founder of SpendFlow, with us. Rajiv has spent quite some time in the SaaS industry as a product manager and then as a startup program lead at Freshworks, one of the largest SaaS companies in India. So Rajiv, why don't you go ahead and give us a quick intro about yourself and your background and your journey a little bit?
Sure. First of all, thanks Fountainhead Leadership Team for having me here. And I've heard a lot of I've seen a lot of your videos before, and it's been very, very insightful and inspiring. And first of all, I would like to thank you and the WebEngage team for having me here. So about me, so I started my career in 2006 in the tech industry, been in tech industry all the while. Started off as a regular engineer who went into an IT job kind of a profile where I started doing development on .NET and ASP. And within 1 year, I realized that is if I code, the company is in danger, and really wanted to go into a role where I can play to my strengths and moved on to a business analyst role and consulting role. So started learning about digital transformations in the banking industry and implemented one of the largest digital transformations for a core banking system for a bank in UK. Spent about good 4 to 5 years in the UK before coming back to India to do my MBA in ISB. Went back into tech consulting this time, spent a bunch of time in the payment space. So worked with the top tier banks in the world on their payment strategy. And once that was done, I realized that I wanted to again went back to the UK and started settling down. At that point of time, I felt really restless, and I was seeing this SaaS wave really picking up and wanted to be a part of it. So quit my job, came back to India, and joined a company called IV Mobility, and that's where I started building SaaS products. This was way back in 2015 when SaaS was just picking up. So I started building products in the enterprise space, built products for FMCG and pharma companies, that to the top names in the country, right? So P&G, Nestle, Dabur, and all these companies where we were trying to automate their entire sales processes. So once that stint was done, I realized I want to be in a place where I want to learn global SaaS, right? So to build in India and sell globally, and that is when Freshworks was that time it was Fresh Desk, and they were looking for product managers to build and launch their marketplace and scale the ecosystem. So got the opportunity, joined Fresh Desk as one of the product managers who launched the Freshworks marketplace. Scaled it to over 1,200 plus apps in about 2.5 years. So that point was immense learning. Learned about SaaS, learned about selling from India to the world, how to build GTM engines, how to build funnels, track them through the life cycle. And that time got exposed to, since I was working in the marketplace and launched and scaled the partnerships with over 1,000 plus partners, I've seen the growth of so many SaaS products right in front of my eyes. So that is when I got real exposure to the explosion of SaaS, and that inspired me to move into a GTM role. So I started launching multiple partner motions with all the SaaS companies that I work with. So launched the SI program, the GSI program, the tech partnerships program, and scaled them. And finally, before I came out of Freshworks to start up on my own, I ran the startup program as well for Freshworks. That is another place where I got an opportunity to work with over 650 plus VCs, PEs, incubators, accelerators across the world, and over 3,500 plus startups were on our program. And I think we've reached to over 20,000 plus startups in the last 2 years when we were running the program. So that is enough exposure that told me that, okay, SaaS is, we are still at the very, very beginning stage of SaaS. And that is going to explode, which means that there are people buying SaaS for everything today. So
Yeah.
that brought me to my journey in SpendFlow, where I realized that since there is so much SaaS around, people are buying it and every individual is buying it separately, we will at some point of time need to consolidate and control spends. And also there is a lot of money left on the table while buying SaaS because we buy it on need basis and not with thorough research, and there's not enough centralized knowledge inside
Yeah.
to buy SaaS better, faster, cheaper. And that's when I started SpendFlow. So that's my journey and looking forward to scale this further.
Interesting. And just a small follow-on question on that, right? So, you mentioned how you found the idea, and how did you end up finding your co-founder and early team, who's interested and looking to solve the same problem that you are solving at SpendFlow.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as part of my startup program and the channel program that I was running, I actually went to onboard my current founding team as partners in Freshworks. That is
Oh
when I
wow.
got exposed to the idea, and they were already building the product at an early stage, and they were trying to find what is the best way for them to scale it. So that is when I realized that my skills of uh, building products and scaling GTM,
Yeah.
especially with working with several hundred SaaS players and building a marketplace around it, might be very, very interesting for the team. And for me, the idea was anyways there. Right? I was already working on cost optimization in SaaS or in IaaS as two
Mhm.
friends. So our visions really aligned. We both really, and my co-founder Siddharth, he used to run BizOps for a company called Volta Charging, and they went IPO 2 weeks before Freshworks did, and
Oh,
he was handling procurement, SaaS procurements for Volta, and he was handling close to $10 million in buying for SaaS and renewing over 200 contracts. So he has faced this problem firsthand, and I've been on the other side selling SaaS for so many years. I know the problem firsthand. And we both really felt that our ideas can come together to solve this. And the third co-founder is also a very strong tech guy named Ajay, and he also has been in the valley for quite some time, and his company got acquired before he came back to India. So
okay.
that's how we realized that our skill sets are very, very complementary, and we believe the problem is big and it's going to go very large, and we have the ability and the knowledge to solve it and scale it. So that's how we started Spendflow.
Interesting. So all three of you come with deep understanding of one side of the market or the solution which is there. Quite
Yeah.
interesting. So now, Rajiv, coming to the topic today, right, which is how you mentioned the SaaS explosion, which is how do you actually weaponize the explosion which is happening in SaaS to actually build your startup and your business, right? How do you build it faster, better, efficient? Right. So how do you weaponize the power of SaaS today? That's the topic largely. And over there, we want to start with the understanding. So because you work with so many, SaaS vendors, players, etc., different, solutions. So what is your take on, using SaaS products and tools, especially at a early stage, to improve efficiency, to grow faster for startups and founders?
Yeah, sure. See, in my honest opinion, tools are your best friends. Okay. So if you are choosing the right tools and the right stacks, it really takes away a lot of your effort that you need to put in multiple places. So I'll take this through example, right? So
Sure.
when started my journey in the startup world in 2016, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to head solution consulting and sales for Ivy. And that point of time, when I started looking at tool sets that were available and what we could do, we had a few stacks. Okay, you'll have one CRM that
Yeah.
everybody in the GTM team will be using. You'll have marketing will be a separate stack altogether. You'll have the developer stack is completely different. People will be using different technologies within the company,
Yeah.
and you'll have a finance tool set for your operations, and finally you'll have a HR tool set. These are primarily the five verticals that I saw in those early stage startups that are out there. And even Ivy at that point of time was also a 200 member company. So if you go before that, primarily everybody starts only on Google, okay, or Microsoft. You have
Yeah.
one Google sheet or an Excel that is going to govern your whole business. So
Yeah.
everybody starts with a broken CRM process. Everybody just enters their leads on one side. uh, Google data, or if you are on D2C or a B2C world, your Google Analytics and everything is separate. So
Yeah.
nobody talks to each other. And as a founder, when you want to get an overall view of your business, you need to run around like crazy. and even you have no idea of your finances, you have no idea of where you are spending on. And that's when people really become conservative, because without your data, without insights, you actually are not optimizing for the right investments for your company. Okay, so that is the point where over the last 5-6 years itself, I think that vision, that part, the problem has completely changed. Today, every single individual, every single department has their own stacks, and people have started thinking platforms more than anything else. And I'll give a great example, right? So today, when I work with SpendFlow, we have about 25, 26 employees, and we are using 35 different tools. Okay,
Oh
so
wow.
it is primarily because every part of the journey, and these are not individual tools, right? So we are, since we buy and renew SaaS for thousands, for hundreds of uh, people, we know
Yeah.
that if you buy a tool, you need to buy a tool that will last you for your next 18 months. So it has to be thought through. So it's not like you impulse buying, right? You go to Instagram, find a product and buy, and that's where a lot of problems start.
Yeah.
Once you start putting in a framework around how you are going to buy a tool, we started thinking about it as stacks. Okay, and all these stacks, we were very clear, should be talking to each other. So
Yeah.
more than even in our product building today, okay, we don't need to build everything from scratch. So we actually, a lot of our components that we build and ship today are taken from products that are existing and stitched together to meet the use cases of our customer. And for that, the first thing that you need to do is understand the landscape, understand where you want, what stage your company is, and what you want to achieve over the next 12 to 18 months. If you believe that you are in a stage where you need to view your entire customer journey in one place, okay, so you need to pick up stacks accordingly. So for your sales and marketing function, choose one stack where data from the first touch point of a customer to the last touch point of a customer flows through seamlessly. Doesn't mean you need to buy the product from the same company. That is not true. Honestly, buying a tool, you need to do some research and do some work with understanding your use cases very, very clearly, and documenting it is very, very important. At an early stage, you might say, I don't have the time, or I don't have the energy to do it. But I would say, spend some time on it, because you know what your requirements are, and start working with vendors who already have the prowess of integrating across the life cycle, so that you get a head start on it. And at an early stage, does it mean that you have to shell out a lot of money? No, because most of the companies today have a strong startup program or an early adopter program, where you can try and buy these products at a very, very efficient price. So make those investments. So in the case of sales and marketing, think about tools that will help you do your outreach, help you, and outreach also depending on the size and scale of your company and the customer segment that you're going after. So if you're an enterprise company, you're going to go after set account books in a certain territory, you might not need tools that an SMB or a mid-market target oriented company needs, right? All you need
Yeah.
is tools that will help you map your accounts properly, map all your account holders in one place, enable you to do account based marketing, enable you to do account based outreach, capture all the conversations in one place, create funnels, and move them through the funnels through the sales cycle. Any new collaterals and everything that your marketing decides or designs and launches should be tagged to these accounts based on the corresponding needs that they might have. And you should be able to automate the process of sending newsletters, communication, and everything through them. So primarily, and obviously have a world-class support. So your marketing, sales, and support stack should be integrated, and your entire customer life cycle, every single touch point should be captured. So that will be your stack. But if you talk about companies that are going after SMBs or mid market, your stack will look very different. You will need very specific outreach, outbound tools that will help you run multiple campaigns across. You'll need your social engagement and brand tools that will help you to consistently brand about yourself. You'll definitely need to have a strong CRM and a customer engagement tool, where you're also running campaigns in different channels, right? So your web, WhatsApp, and all those channels you can leverage to enable your SDRs to create those opportunities, or enable your companies to come in and sign up wherever you want. From there, from a funnel perspective, pass it on to your pre-sales, pass it on to your several people have to work on the stack at once for you, for your customers to get engaged. All engagements to be captured, nurture to be done. So there are several things to be done. And here your marketing tool will need a marketing team will have a separate stack by itself. Your SDR team will have a separate stack by itself. Your AE team will have a separate stack by itself. So think about your stage, think about your target audience, and then map your customer journey first, and then decide the stack that will help you to achieve what you want to achieve. So I'll say that investment as a founder, uh, being busy is not an excuse. You need to have that in place so that you are solving it for the next 12 to 18 months. So that's how I think about stacks. So you can expand the same concept into all the other functions. And today, because of the explosion of SaaS and the emergence of verticalized SaaS and solving for even specific functions, you have several products that are out there, and you also have a great um, uh, like you have vendors like Zapier and several others who also enable you to tie down data flow between the organizations that will help you to accelerate your deployments as well. So you don't need to build your own connectors. You don't need to bring in an SI to build a world-class integration for you to start with, and you don't need to have a 6 month to 12 month deployment lifecycle. For from the word go to go live, you should be up and running in 6 weeks. I think that is where the world is heading towards, and this
Yeah,
can be
absolutely.
and especially for early stage companies.
Early.
So think about it in that front, and I think that's how you think about your stack.
Absolutely. And one question you mentioned, right? The founders and the team should do deep research, analyze what fits the requirement, and then find a tool. And over there, also somewhere you need to strike a balance, right? Where you go deep, you understand the tools and features. Maybe you compare different products, because today there are several numerous products in each category as well, right? Whether enterprise, mid market, consumer, whatever segment you're playing into. So where do you draw that fine line in between, doing your research, going deeper into product comparisons, etc., and then taking the ultimate call? Because at the end, ultimately, you have as much time, right? You don't want to go and look at 10 vendors, 20 vendors at a time, and waste a lot of time as well. So how do you shortlist those top vendors or tools you should be looking at, and then go deeper into those, and not across everyone else?
Yeah. See, honestly, today product discovery uh, is a problem because there is content overload everywhere. Okay, so every company has a large marketing team that is providing enough content for every use case for you to go and search them. But there are also strong companies like G2, Trust Radius, and others who are able to uh, help you shortlist that at least the top 10 vendors very quickly. And in fact, as part of SpendFlow as well, we are launching features primarily to address this, where we are enabling discovery to be much faster and quicker and more relevant depending on the size of the company, depending on the use cases, etc. So those are things that we are working on to solve. But identifying your top 5 6 vendors is not a challenge today. But the challenge there is between those 5 6 vendors, how are you going to very quickly go and choose the right one for you? How are you going to pilot? How are you going to scale? So
Yeah.
that is where two things come into picture. One is uh, once you have your use case document ready and it's very well vetted within your organization, today vendors definitely come back with their fit analysis of what is going to fit you, and you can start there as a first cut, where most people
Okay.
tick your benchmarks. You can start there, and the pricing differences as well. You need to put your selection parameters very clearly. That will really help you accelerate the choice of your vendors. Okay, and worst case, ask for a quick POC. If a company is not even willing to do a POC with you, they're not the right vendor for you. Okay, so you need to, as an early stage startup, as a company that is growing very quickly, you will sometimes need support and handholding. So one parameter that I will definitely recommend is work with a company that is valuing you and that will help you go up and running, uh, because that is important. Bad tools can definitely offset you by a few months, but it is not like it is going to pull your whole company down as well. So be deliberate about your choices. Have a framework of tool selection. That is extremely important. Put different parameters like use cases, price, support, and then extension capabilities, how it is integrating with the existing tool sets that you have, references, and also talk to a few customers who are at the same level as you are and who have implemented recently, get feedback about it, implementation timelines, partner support. There's a whole bunch of parameters that you can checklist that you can have to select a good tool. And that framework, if you think you're early for frameworks and if you're early about taking these decisions, I think you should rethink that, because frameworks help you make your choices better.
And that sounds like a lot of things, Rajiv. So how much time should the teams and founders spend for all of this process? Maybe 2 weeks, 4 weeks? What's the time where you say that, I'm going to, give this only this much time and bandwidth, and, beyond this, I'm going to take the call and not sort of delay the decision or just do over analyze stuff?
No, if you talk about planning, right, it is just a matter of a few days for you to plan what your customer journey is, and where you see, as a founder, whom you are selling to. If you don't know whom you are selling to, that is a bigger problem to address. If you know whom you are selling to, you should be
Yeah.
able to map your customer journey. Okay, that is
Yeah.
effort that takes about a day. Bring in your core team members, people whom you are starting your company with, and map out your customer journey. That will probably take a day and a half, worst case, right?
Yeah.
Post that, it is about choosing what kind of stacks that you need that is going to cover maximum part of this customer journey. And then you have enough, once you, the planning and the criteria definition will take about 3 to 4 days time. And if you don't want to spend 3 to 4 days on some of the most important aspects of your business, I think it will be a bigger problem for you later, because you need to keep redoing this and changing a lot now and then. So assume it's a week for you to put your whole plan together. And and you don't need to buy every tool at every point of time, right? So once you have a vision of your stack, choose the right tool that you need immediately, and then the
Yeah.
selection processes start. And early stage, buy tools that talk to each other, and buy packages that will help you to install and grow. And there are companies that will help you grow from 0 to say 3 million very easily. So choose those stacks like that, and choose integrated products. That is where you will spend a bit of time. And I think today, with the amount of knowledge and the data that is available, you should be able to make choices pretty quickly.
And you earlier also mentioned that you try and choose a tool which is going to last you at least 18 months, right?
Yeah.
So how do you assess that and identify that your needs are not going to change after 12 or 18 months? And like, do you optimize for a tool which is going to last you for a couple of years, or do you just optimize for those 18 months and then say I'll reevaluate after 18 months based on my stage and scale at that time?
See, you will know. If you see, typically think about it like VC funding, right? Or your fundraise, right? You build a tool that will help you to go to a certain stage. Okay. And at that point of time, usually 18 months is a decent enough window, because that is where you know whether you're on the right zone, whether you are able to drive enough growth, and whether you'll be able to sustain with it. Okay. If things
Yeah.
are breaking within the stage itself, you should go to the next level or upgrade to the next stage tools. Okay. So not all tools are the same, not all vendors are the same. So there are changes that might occur within this period as well. But from a vision standpoint, from a company standpoint, you cannot buy a tool for the next 3 weeks and move, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's more like a very, very short term solution that you do. Yes, there are people in your company who will buy free tools for evaluation and stuff. So for point transactions and stuff, that is not going to stop. I'm talking about core stacks. So core
Yes.
stacks, once you think this is your customer journey, this is the face of your company, this is the way you're gonna grow in the next 18 months, you buy a stack for that. And if the stack is breaking, and the stack is breaking for good, for example, you suddenly hire a sales team that is needing a lot more on your CRM than you initially thought so, and that will help them perform better, perform faster, then it's a good problem to have. So again, put some time in and buy, but at the same time, don't overload your sales team. If you buy a tool that is so bulky, clunky, and will make your sales team slow down just for maintaining and running the tool and the data, then that's not the right tool for you as well. Okay. So that is why it is important you understand your own personas of within your organization, who's going to be using the tool, how much time are they going to be spending on it, and how much time you want them to spend on maintaining that tool and enhancing that tool. So that is a critical criteria for you to choose that tool.
Got it. So you mean, so basically you say that it's okay to go and reevaluate a tool after 18 months or so, because we've
Yes.
seen a lot of times founders, they stress on finding the right tool, or, like an enterprise or a scalable tool from day zero, which could also mean it's a difficult to, or a complex tool as well. There's a learning curve attached to it, right?
The,
Uh,
the, the, the simplest thing to think about is, yes, you can think about something. Everybody wants to be a $1 billion company day one, and we all start buying tools like that. Okay. Think about implementation timeline for that tool. Do you have the time to sit and implement it in such a way that it is going to take you from 0 to $1 billion from day one? I don't think so. This is where you need a balance between what your needs are and what your wants are.
Yeah. And then Rajiv, like how do founders and teams take the build versus buy decision, right? That's always there, right? Whether you build something grounds up which suits your requirements exactly, or you just buy something off the shelf. And you mentioned spend flow as well, right? You guys are taking that call every day, whether you should build or just buy something or integrate something out of the box, in your, and then also that depends upon whether it's a part of your core product and proposition, or is it something which is supplementing or enabling or aiding some team or team members, etc., right? So how do you take these decisions, and also in various scenarios, situations, etc.?
Yeah. So here you have to think about three or four core parameters. One is, what is your objective? If your objective is to go very fast, pilot, and test your hypothesis, you are in that stage where you want to test a lot. I would
Mhm.
say assemble a product and go and test it out. Okay.
Mhm.
Don't build everything from scratch, because today that you have so much of resources that are available. If the thought of building everything from scratch, it may be great for your development team. It might be great work and motivating for a lot of engineers who are solving core problems, and it can also feel great that it can also be cost efficient in a lot of cases. But is that something that you want to invest in right now, or rather prove your concept, get a few customers, and then when you are thinking about scaling, you take a chance of you identify which are the core components that you want to build and keep it in house, because you want to avoid a few risks that are out there, right? So I would think about it from a speed perspective. If you want to test a concept, my first thought would be to how can I go to market the faster. So I will look for all options to assemble,
Yeah.
build a solution that is packaged, do investments that will make it look like my product, and reskin it in such a way that my customer journeys are coming through. Again, the most important part here is, yes, you can assemble a product, but you still should feel your product and your vision should come out of it. So
Yeah.
if that is customizable to that level, take it, test it, and then come back with feedback and make the tweaks. Okay. So that is my first thought for very, very early stage founders. In
Yeah.
once you're a little mature and once you're growing in the market and going deeper, so
Yeah.
your build versus buy decisions will come on parameters like extensibility, security, cost, and time it takes for you to maintain, and what are the services that are being provided along with it, and your vision for your product and stuff, right? So today people say there is a lot of open source tools that are available. Open source is just the beginning, but you'll start paying for it a lot once you start maintaining it and taking it and extending it. It becomes your own, right? So tech
Yeah.
debt is real, and especially in products where there's a lot of data has gravity. So really keep that in mind when you are thinking about open sourcing something and building it for short term and then trying to customize it and bring it in house. So you need to have multiple considerations. You need to have tech considerations, you need to have business considerations, and you need to talk about extensibility and your future considerations as well. So this parameter, this you have to map it in this framework and try whether I should build, buy, or integrate. And even in integration, since integrations are the fastest way to go to market without having with which mitigates a lot of risk for you. Okay. But when you're talking about OEMing solutions, that is where I would also exercise a word of caution. You have to OEM a solution, and when you're OEMing a solution to go to market, one of the core, because I faced it a couple of times in my career, where I spent about 12 to 18 months trying to
Mhm.
OEM a solution and go to market. And
Yeah.
by about 14th month, I realized that the company that I'm OEMing is acquired by my competitor. Okay. So a lot of effort went waste. So either you OEM with clear confidence that there is not going to be competition, and the OEMing is going to give you a huge lift for you in your business.
Yeah.
Protect yourself with contracts that when they are getting acquired or something of that sort, you should be given enough notice, or they should ensure that they pay the cost of you rebuilding it in house or something of that sort. Protect yourself
Mhm.
thoroughly before OEMing. OEMing is a huge investment.
Got it. No, that's an interesting take, Rajiv, on build versus buy, and how taking a call on basically how fast you want to move, right? That's interesting. One more question that, founders generally have, or maybe, so whether, buying decisions, or onboarding tools, should it be top down, bottoms up? Because And second is, do top down decisions work as well, right? Where say the management or the founding team, they realize, okay, we need to deploy or adopt the solution, but then it's like an elephant in the room which everyone has to go learn. It's a change management process, it's a difficult as well process sometimes. So should those buying decisions be top down, bottoms up, which ones work well? And do top down work as well, or do you need buy-in from all the stakeholders and users as well? How do these decisions, how are the best ones?
See, early stage companies, your functional heads are extremely important to make the decisions on the right tools, because you want to be a person who empowers your frontline, and you want to be a person or a company that empowers your frontline, and you also want to be a team that is able to go very fast and pilot, learn and grow, right? At the
Yeah.
same time, we are not going to be, you should not take your eyes off the bottom line on this, because tools are becoming expensive and tools are suddenly coming back to bite a lot of companies once they reach from one stage to another stage. So just to give an example, SaaS spends are growing 25% year on year for a lot of companies today. And SaaS is suddenly becoming the fourth biggest cost item on companies after your infra, people, and marketing. Okay. So you have to have your eyes on where you are spending and whether the product is needed or not before you enable your teams to just go put a corporate card and start buying products. Okay.
Yeah.
Another problem that I see is there is very few tools that are available in the market that can help you view all your expenses in one place. There's no centralization of contracts, there is no centralization of billing. So you will see that there is a leakage, and there is also lack of vision in spending that is happening. So that is also one of the core problems that we are trying to solve, and that's a whole new category that is coming out to solve this. But you have to ensure that your at an early stage your frontline is working very deeply on the products that they need, and as and when you bring in experts, they also bringing their stacks with them. So it is not just knowledge, it is also tools that they bring along. So you just
Yeah.
need to ensure that that fits in with your with the company's vision and the stage that you are in, so that you're able to invest and enable growth for your teams. But if you go to an enterprise world, it is impossible for you to democratize software today, because looking at the scale of, you talk about a IT services company with 100,000 employees, you
Yeah.
cannot be bottom up there.
Yeah.
There again, what you need to do is you need to choose tools that will that will enable you to sustain all your operations in one place. This is where the large players come into picture, and the integrations and the investment that people make, and having separate tools, dev tools team that are part of your own company to enable support your employees comes into picture. And there it is going to be difficult. But the choices there are also there, where you need to have a team that consistently evaluates market tools and brings it into the right functions. And today I see a lot of companies setting up divisions that do it for them, because it's very high cost, very high rewards also for them. And also, most of the companies today, or especially in the services world, are
Yeah.
need to be experts in multiple tools so that they can advise their companies better. So there is a lot of investments that are going into curate tools for different customers or customer personas that they sell into, evaluate them consistently, figure out which they can either use or take to market. That is all happening today, and that is very heartening to see.
And Rajiv, you also mentioned about cost, right? You need to keep an eye on the cost when buying the tool, etc. So, just if we look a little deeper into this question, how do you exactly, how does, at an early stage one go about budgeting for tools? And does it change as per the function and the requirement? So, maybe for example, for marketing, should the cost of the tools that you use be a percentage of your marketing spends? Or maybe for HR or dev, should it be a cost of your employee costs and salaries, so that you're improving the productivity? How do you budget it for different kind of tools? And is there a framework or anything like that?
See, very early stage is very difficult to do it. I would rather say have a blanket budget that is identified for tools, okay,
Mhm.
or it is part of your general expenses, and try to bring in tools, because you never know what kind of stacks you want to use, and as and how fast you're going to grow, and what kind of people you're going to hire, what tools you want to use, etc. So, and at an early stage, it's departmental budgeting and stuff like that is also non-existent today. And over a period of time, once you are Series A, Series B plus companies, that will all start to come in, and it will be better if you can think about it from an employee level at a growth stage, because uh, today on an average we see that one employee is using 3 to 5 tools, and you know what the stacks are depending on your company. If you are a if you are a company that is very strong on product and you need a lot of developer tools, so you know that this is the cost per license per tool, and most of the developer tools are enterprise licenses. You will be able to allocate the right budgets and calculate it at an employee level. But if you talk about tools in infra space and all, or there's a lot of consumption based pricing that is coming in SaaS today, there it
Yeah.
is going to be extremely difficult for you to forecast what your spends are going to be. For example, DocuSign today, they are moving into consumption based pricing. You will not know how many signatures your company is going to require at this point of time, and which part of the organization is going to use it more, because sales is going to require it, support is going to require, or sales is going to require it, finance is going to require it, everybody is going to require it, so legal is going to require it. So there are so many different variables that come into picture. So one challenge that we are foreseeing is, as consumption based pricing comes in, tagging
Mhm.
and allocation of expenses is going to be a challenge, and that is also another area that we have to solve for as we build optimization solutions. But at an early stage, difficult to manage it, so have a central bucket. But once you enter into a steady state business and a growth stage business, per employee level is possible for certain categories, that can give you predictability, and
Yeah.
you should always have a buffer for consumption based SaaS or IaaS and other things.
Fair enough. And Rajiv, you also mentioned, right, at this stage, you guys are having around 30-35 tools. So how does one draw that fine line between, having too many tools on board and, avoiding death by tools? And then, it doesn't hit your productivity, but it actually gets the team, to become more productive, right? Where do you draw that fine line between having too many tools? Because again, each tool, right, you need a adoption curve, you need to learn things, maybe then become a power user, right? So if you keep having a lot of tools, team might end up spending a lot of time between the tools, let my tools, etc. So how do you draw that fine line? And is there a magic number, like, you said per employee, maybe 5 tools and things like that? So is there like a magic number? Okay, per department, per employee, you should have X number of tools. Anything more is, going to affect, like a, your too large pizza, concept. Is there something like that in the SaaS world as well?
No, it depends on function, it depends on role, it depends on stage, and
Mhm.
depends on your hunger, what you want to do. So, at our point today, we have 35 tools primarily because we believe these are tools that are helping us. And as a company, so again, as power users of our own product, we are centralizing our tool sets. We know what tools are available, who's using what and stuff. And also at a very, very early stage we are in right now, we are giving the tools that our employees ask for. So that ways we are able to, and if they are performing well in their jobs, which we can at an early stage be very well able to measure whether the tool is giving an ROI or not, we'll continue to use that. But as you grow, this is where when you're in hyper growth, it is very difficult to manage. So there is no magic number. You need to have some kind of a bandwidth that is dedicated for you to very quickly visualize, centralize, optimize, and govern your tools. But honest answer is no, there is no magic number. And second, think about it at stages and do it on a regular basis. Your consolidation of your tools, checking usage, tracking outcomes, and tying it back to whether you should renew or not. So, and the biggest problem that I've seen, okay, this is coming from a lot of companies that we are speaking to today. A lot of employees today buy tools, and in 2 years down the line, the employee goes away. So the
Yes.
employee is the person to whom the invoices go to. Finances, finance team is just paying the invoice. So now finance in a lot of companies doesn't even get invoices of what they are paying for. And finance and the team don't have the bandwidth to go and check, hey, whether this tool is really being used or not, how many people are using it, whether it's worth for us to invest in. Those discussions are not happening, and that is why the leakage is just expanding year on year. So I think this problem is real, and people who are listening in, I think you should come up with a process where you have basic audits or centralized contracts and invoicing in one place so that you are able to do it, and it's not that difficult to do, honestly.
Yeah. And Rajiv, you also mentioned ROI. So if you could throw some light on how do you guys go about measuring ROI and at SpendFlow, do you have some sort of framework or process that, okay, this is how we measure ROI for this kind of a tool? Maybe if it's a marketing and sales tool, you look at the revenue that it drives for your business, or maybe it's a productivity tool, how much time it saves. Do you have some frameworks around that?
The ROI varies again by tool, by category. And it's very difficult to say, hey, my tool's expenses is 15%, it's giving me a 65% ROI at an overall level is difficult. Unless until you are a company where you're clearly guaranteeing some outcome for customers. So at SpendFlow, we guarantee savings, and there's a number that we put to it, or we go and say 3x to 5x ROI. I can clearly quantify because the KPI is savings. For a tool like Grammarly, how do you calculate ROI? Grammarly is helping everybody write better. So the number of mistakes they do reduces, the amount of time they spend on writing reduces. So it's a productivity and productivity enhancement, and my writers swear by it and they are using it on a regular basis. So for us, that is important, and we make that because it affects your overall brand if you are sending some out collaterals and posting something on social with spelling mistakes, right? So these are investments you make, and those are important for you. But if you're talking about a CRM, if you're talking about a help desk tool, etc., help desk you can quite easily quantify your ROI because you can talk about conversations, you can talk about NPS, you talk about measurements that you can take on it and take.
Yeah.
Tools like WebEngage, where we are talking about customer engagement metrics, very, very clear ROI, right? Number of conversations you are able to drive, number of
Yeah.
automations you are able to make, and stuff are very easily quantifiable. So by category, it will vary. As a founder, my core metric is, hey, you asked for the tool, are you using it? Is it giving you value? If nobody is using it, don't pay for it. That's it. That's the framework we use. But as an enterprise, you will have to talk about adoption. How much features of that tool is being adopted by every user? Different tools, buying the same tools again and again, can we reduce repeatability, or can we reduce repeat purchase of a tool or duplicate purchases of tools? So as another entity, are we paying enough for a certain tool? Is there an other alternative that can come and reduce my cost? Is my implementation done completely, or is there something that I'm leaking money on implementations? So there are multiple ways in which you can measure, and at that level, for an enterprise, you will have different people program managing each of those projects, and they should come up with the right ROI and measure it, and it should all feed back into your CIO or a CFO so that they can take better decisions.
Yeah. Fair enough. So basically, at an early stage, you either have a tool which drives your revenue and business, or some metric where there's a clear measurable ROI impact, or in productivity led tools, basically, you budget it so that, it's basically an hygiene, right? For your employees, you sort of have some
Yes.
tools which are must have. You can't directly measure the ROI productivity, but it's like good to have a hygiene, right? At least for the team. So yeah, that's an interesting take. Uh, Now, Rajiv, just switching gears, right? You've led the startup program previously at Freshworks, and we also have a startup program at WebEngage. So, just curiosity out of curiosity, do you still see there is enough awareness among founders, early stage startups, that there are these startup credits, benefits, etc. that you get? Because in our experience, what we've seen is there are half of these founders and startups who come and who ask that, hey, we are an early stage startup, do you have some benefit or something like that, right? But then there are the other half who never ask, and if you don't ask or if you don't look at it, maybe you don't even know and you don't get that, right, as an early stage startup. So do you see there is enough awareness right now, or that there isn't among startups about these benefits as an early stage? What's your take on that?
So my honest take is that awareness is building up and it's changed drastically over the last 3 years. So when we started, we had to work through a lot to get awareness, and in fact, we are looking at some of the pioneers in that space to emulate their models to go faster on this. Right. So AWS, in my opinion, is phenomenal in AWS, Google, Microsoft, and all these players who have the cloud offerings are very, very good in startup programs. And if you see today, most of the startups adopt their credits when they start. But with
Yeah.
respect to tools, the ecosystems are really contributing today. A lot of incubators, accelerators, government bodies, and others are creating enough awareness. But
Yeah.
I still believe that a lot of startups don't take that amount of time to find out what is available before they even go and sign up, right? So as I said, most of the people just want something done immediately, very short term. So I'll go sign up and try it out, and that's where it's starting. I think to answer your question, awareness is building up. If you ask me whether we are there at a tipping point where everybody is aware and that's the route for acquiring customers, not yet.
Yeah, because and other thing is also right there, even if some company is not directly advertising a offer or benefit for early stage startup, but if you don't ask, you'll never get it, right? Even if it's not publicly available, there could be benefits for startups which vendors might be giving.
See, it's also a company strategy decision, right? So startup programs generally have longer time to revenue compared to a customer directly signing up and giving revenue today. But we've also seen that people who adopted your product for a longer time and they've used it stick with you for much longer compared to people who just sign up and come in. Your churn rate is much lower for customers who have come through startup programs. So it's a company decision. If you are starting up a startup program after you have a completely evolved sales engine, then
Mhm.
it's going to be competition. You're going to be competing against the same customers, and it's also difficult to predict revenues in a streamlined way for people coming through different programs for you, right? You'll be competing with your marketing teams, you'll be competing with your sales teams for every onboarding that you do. But as a company, you've taken a decision that I am happy to get any customer through my funnel, through the startup program, and give them credits, get them used to my product, adopt it, and then I'm happy to convert them after a customer after some point of time. Then I think it will really reap non-linear rewards, and there will be huge success coming through those programs in future.
And one more thing, Rajiv, around this is that you mentioned that now a lot of vendors are starting to give these benefits credits to startups directly or through VCs, incubators, accelerators, etc. Right? Which means there is now a whole lot of these perks, credits, benefits which are available. Now, as an early stage startups, you might be a little tempted or maybe a little overwhelmed and maybe go ahead and maybe try out those 10 different tools which are available. So again, where do you draw that fine line? Because even though those are available for free, there is probably still an opportunity cost or some indirect cost that you would be incurring right over there. So how do you draw that fine line and not go and try out every product and just one which is going to suit your requirement and not just go overboard with all the credits and perks that you keep getting in?
So it's a very interesting question because uh, see, giving credits for free or giving a very very huge discount is a very common way in which people acquire customers. But you should not buy tools for discounts, right? It is again going against the principles of impulse buying. You should know your customer journey. You should know the tool that you need, and then you hunt for offers. You don't start with an offer and hunt for a product and try to backfit it into your company roadmap or your company stack, right? And also one of the big decisions or big mistakes that a lot of people make in choosing a stack with higher discounts or credits is you ha- you have to really ask this question: what will be my actual spend after the credits expire? That math a lot of people don't do. You go in very early, try it, and you put your card on file and you forget about it. You focus on implementing that product, and once a year or two goes, it is very difficult for you to really negotiate a better price or better deal with them. And your card is on file, and you just get charged for it, and you don't want to disturb your business as usual as well. So one thing that I'll advise a lot of founders who are choosing tools is think about it over the lifetime in which you'll be using the tool, and ask the questions on what will be my cost, what will be my usage, how will it impact, like change based on my usage and my scale, and get a view of it. Because if you don't negotiate, you're going to be getting blanket deals, and that is expensive.
Yeah. No, I think Rajiv, so in our experience, we're seeing that changing at least for good, where founders are proactively asking about, the implementation time and opportunity cost, their dev teams or, the team would take in adopting it, the future cost look like. A lot of them are still, they're starting to do, but I think still a long way, in that adoption and, awareness as well, right? Where you get a lot of these credits, but you need to selectively focus and, figure out the right ones for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll throw it up for questions, Rajiv, unless you have anything else, to add, to summarize the conversation, because it was a great conversation, right? How do you find tools, buy tools, optimize for them as well as per your stage, as you grow. whether it should be top down, bottoms up. So a great conversation, interesting one. And that's where I think, solutions or vendors like SpendFlow also come in, where you manage all of these tools, help them manage on their behalf, find the right ones. Probably not just, managing, but maybe if you can solve for discovery, that's like a, cherry on the cake for the, early teams and founders. So yeah, any closing notes and, anything you would want to add before we throw it up for the audience, Rajiv?
Yeah. So my closing remark is it's a wild west out there with the number of products that are options that are out there for you to build your own stacks and choices. Be rational about your decisions, what tool you want, and how you are using it, and how you are measuring success for each of those implementations, and ensure your employees are happy. At the same time, keep an eye out for your bottom line and your expenses as well, and
Yeah.
also make proper partners who will be able to add value. Okay, because if you don't add enough value to if partners are not adding enough value, you need to really rethink those partnerships as well, because ultimately you run your business and you want to focus on your core business. You want proper partners or a solution that will help you take care of this on a continuous basis. So make wise choices and save money, because this is capital that is just stuck on like this is like a huge amount of capital. We are seeing about 30% of expenses being wasted. So that is growth capital for you, and leverage it properly. Use the right tools, right partners, and use the right frameworks to select your tools and spend wisely. That's what we'll say.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rajiv. So yeah, we don't have much questions today. I think it was quite a elaborative and self-explanatory session, I think, Rajiv. So thank you so much for the time, Rajiv. So we'll got to know a lot from you in terms of how do you optimize the spends, and find the right tools, partners, so that you're growing in the long term and it's not holding you back, right, when you sort of at the early stage or even at the growth stage as well. So thanks so much, Rajiv, for taking out time. Great conversation. The audience, few comments have also come in that the conversation was interesting.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Nitya, and thanks, Meghna, and thanks the whole Fountainhead Leadership Series. I enjoyed the conversation, and looking forward to working with you guys closely.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rajiv. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.